In our WIMBA session, we were somewhat frustrated by not being able to share the screen as I demonstrated some of the aspects of looking in ERIC. So I thought I'd go ahead and try making a video to see if that works, and of course for people who were unable to attend, this is one way. This is hopefully the first of a series. This one is focused on subject headings in ERIC. As a reminder, this familiar search table is made up of 3 columns and 3 rows. From your original patron question in the first worksheet, you identified 3 different facets. From there, these were entered in the first row across, and in this case I've decided on gender, reading, and learning. In the second row, you thought up synonyms for each facet, thinking of different words that could be used to look for subject headings. I've noted these synonyms. I don't know if they'll all work yet, but that's okay. And finally, the third row is only for ERIC subject headings. For this part, I need to take each of the words that I've come up with and search in the ERIC Thesaurus. I'll move over to there now. The ERIC Thesaurus is found by clicking on the subject heading button in the ERIC Advanced Search page. If you're in Basic Search, that button doesn't show up, but you can always go back to searching and then you should see it pop back up. But here it is. I'm going to go here, and it doesn't say Thesaurus here, but in case you're wondering why I've called it the ERIC Thesaurus, that's because that's what it is. I'm searching the Thesaurus to find subject headings. Beginning with one of my first terms, I'm going to go ahead and search for the term boys and hit find, and look at what you see on the screen. First, you'll notice that your term boys actually maps to the term males. This blue underlined term is your subject heading. None of the words used below here in notes are subject headings. It may be a historical note. In this case, it's telling you what you would use males for instead of the term boys, and it also tells you that historically these terms were used. Always use the expand to see if there are further notes about use. In this case, it's the same notes. But scrolling down the page, if you'll look on the left, you see that what are listed here are broader subject headings, related subject headings, and narrower subject headings. So you can take a look at each of these. Notice that each of these is a subject heading, and that you can click on expand to understand more about it. As you do that, you make a determination whether it's appropriate for that facet. Keep going back to that concept and back to the patron question, because if you don't set this up carefully, you're going to wander off track, I promise you. But you continue with each of your terms until you have a handful of good subject headings that you've verified by checking them out. And here I'm thinking that maybe sex. It's actually, that was one of my synonym terms, right? So I'll go to that and expand. And I look here at the note used to describe the physiological traits distinguishing males and females of a species. There is an additional note to use a more precise term if possible. In this case, I'm going to go ahead with this very broad term, because remember, we're also going to be combining this facet with others, and as you do that, it'll narrow your retrieval. But I'm going to scroll down and see what else there might be. There's males again. Notice we also have females, so I want to enter that term as a subject heading in that last row of my grid. Gender bias. Well, I noticed that maybe it's a result of gender bias that boys read differently. Maybe I want to do that. So I'll go ahead and expand. I wonder if that would be suitable. I'll always check that out. Prejudicial attitudes. I don't know, because I think here if I use this term, I might be making an assumption that is not necessarily warranted. I think I'll kind of keep that in mind as I go, but I'll start with something that really does mean the same thing as the facet. So that's not really a good option. Sex role. Well, maybe. I'll expand on that. Patterns of attitudes and behavior that is deemed appropriate to one sex rather than the other. I don't know. I think that kind of, again, takes it slightly off track, but you can sort of see where I was thinking here. That's more of a sociological aspect than it is something that verifies what the patron originally asked me, which was whether boys and girls learn to read differently, right? So don't make any assumptions here, and be careful because it's so easy to sort of go off track. If by looking at the note you do not see anything that seems clear to you, you're still confused about how it's used, you can do a single subject heading search just by clicking on that subject heading, in this case sex role, and it'll go ahead and do a search, in this case bringing back over 8,000 items. Note the syntax here, by the way, and this you can copy and paste. But here's our results, showing title and other information, metadata, about each item. Looking just at the titles, you can sort of get some kind of idea. How is that subject heading used, apparently, based on what you see here? I think that's a little sort of off track. I can, if I see something appropriate, by the way, I can click on the title and scroll down through the full record, including the abstract, but also all the subject headings. I decided that one's not a very good term to use for my fit. To review, planning is the most important part of your search, beginning with understanding the original question. Once you're sure of that, you get to work looking for facet terms, then thinking of synonyms to describe each of your facets. From there, you use those words, including your initial terms, to look for subject headings, keeping in mind that what you find needs to be pertinent to the patron's original question. So every synonym and every subject heading needs to mean roughly the same thing. To decide that, you look at the notes and then you use expand to decide whether subjects are pertinent. And if you can't tell, try doing a single subject search. I hope this helps. In the next video, I'll talk about conducting a single facet search.